In this video, you will learn 3 ways to improve your inventory management for Q4 and beyond. My guest today is Jae Jun from Gorilla ROI. Gorilla ROI is an application which connects Seller Central with Google Sheets, and it pulls out data from Amazon servers and your seller account. It's a very interesting application, quite unique solution. Check the links below if you're interested, and also check the video where we did the Demo Mondays episode with Gorilla. And as always, don't forget to subscribe below to the YouTube channel of Orange Klik. Click the notification bell, because here we talk to different Amazon industry experts. We talk with software providers and also event organizers. And now, enjoy this conversation. Hello, Jay. It's nice to have you here again. And could you please introduce yourself? What do you do in Amazon space?
Hey, Augustus. Hey, Orange Klik viewers. Yeah, my name's Jay. I've been a seller on Amazon since 2012, and I'll go through a quick intro of myself. I've got a very detailed presentation that I want to share with you. But aside from just the Amazon side, I run a business a software tool called Gorilla ROI, which pretty much automates and automatically downloads your Seller Central data into Google Sheets. So we'll be using that as an example of how to really dig into improving your inventory management.
I'm excited about this tool because it's quite unique in the Amazon space. I haven't seen any other kind of similar tool. And actually, if you guys want to try Gorilla ROI, check the links below in the description of this video. There is also a discount, I think, applied if you follow the affiliate links. And now let's see what June has to share. I hope it will be very useful to any kind of level of Amazon seller, right?
Definitely. Okay, guys, so I want to go over just some basic actionable ways that you can improve your inventory management. So this isn't just for Q4, but it's also for going beyond that, because nobody likes going out of stock. That's where you end up losing a lot of money. So just a quick little intro about my failures. So like I said before, I started in 2012 with my wife. We funded this FBA business with my day job at the time, and I was also running a side business. So we were pretty much plowing everything that we were making into this. Since we started in 2012, we didn't have much information available to us. So I've literally made so many mistakes, and through those mistakes, we've got to where we are. And the biggest 3 mistakes that right off the top of my head that I like to share with people is that we received 3 containers with 100% defects. So you can imagine how much money loss that was, the emotional stress that brought on. Not only that, we spent about $72,000 on a design agency, simply because that's what we thought was the common way of doing things. And it took us literally 3 failed products before we finally found something that had potential. So with all those failures, why would you even bother listening to me, right? So through all that, through our journey, we're now at mid 7 figures in sales. And I'm a numbers guy, and I believe that numbers definitely tell the story. So our gross profit is at 42%. Our operating profit is at 27%. And that's not net income, because net income is after interest and taxes. Our conversion rates across the board is about 26%. And my background is in finance, evaluation, and software. So this is stuff that I really enjoy doing. We take a very data-driven approach, and we constantly analyze the numbers. And that's why just by following these 3 things that I'm going to go over with you today, you can really improve the way you analyze your inventory. So what are the 3 ways? It's lead time calculations, applying a weight calculation to your monthly sales, and then updating your velocity calculations with something better than what Amazon provides you. So let's get down into the lead times. Overall, this is a pretty basic idea of how you would generally think about lead times, right? So you find a product, you want to put in an order, you ask the supplier how many days it would take to make the product. And I'm going to go through like a yoga mat example. And let's say that they say give you a day of like 25 days, right? you think to yourself, okay, 25 days, and then it'll probably take another 14 or 16 or whatever days to get it to my location. So your total lead time calculation is really your supplier lead time, manufacturing lead time, plus the transit time, and ta-da, that's what you get, right? But that's where we lost a lot of money by going out of stock, because before we actually got to the next stage of breaking things down, we couldn't understand why we were going out of stock when we had our lead times done accurately. Like if the supplier gave us 25 days of lead time, we accounted for like 30 days, and then we did an extra few days for transit, but we always ended up going out of stock. And until we really started breaking it down, that's when we realized that, we were missing so much of the puzzle. Because now in the screen that you see, this is how we break down our lead times. So originally, this is the most common method of doing it. You have the supplier lead time, let's say 25 days. You have the shipping lead time, 20 days. And so your total lead time is 45 days. But let's break it down. So we now account for different lead times based on peak season versus off-peak. And that makes sense because your lead time is going to increase at the end of the year when everybody's trying to make product and get it, say, before Q4 or before the Chinese New Year, versus off-peak during the summer or something when things slow down. And even during the total production lead time, we realized when talking with our suppliers that although they may say 25 days, they really start maybe 3 days after they acquire all the raw materials. And then there's the production time. And then once we send inspectors or we get some other things checked out, there's another several days added on to that manufacturing time. And then once the packaging starts, we have to go inspect again just to make sure that everything is done properly. And so that initial 25-day lead time doesn't account for all these extra factors. That also goes with the inbound lead time. And instead of transit time, we split it up into two sections. So the inbound and also the outbound, because if you get the product to your location instead of like doing it just straight to Amazon, you also have to factor in the time that it takes to pack, ship, and then send it to Amazon. Okay, so once you break it down, these are more realistic numbers. Going back to the original example again, 25 days and then 20 days equals 45 days. I'm now going to split that up into every single little component. So now I'm going to use a peak season example. So this would be the worst case scenario, the longest case scenario, whereas off-peak would be much shorter. So let's say I'm trying to make yoga mats before the Chinese New Year. Production lead time total would be 35 days because, and I only get this after I realized that, okay, the supplier, I asked the supplier about how long it's going to take once they get the money to acquire the raw materials, and they tell me 7 days. And then from once they get the materials, they start production. That's where the 25 days comes in. Then we go through QA, and any defects are remade 2 days. Then they need to pack and get it all ready for the container, another 1 day. So instead of 25 days, the production lead time is now an additional 10 days. Same with on the inbound lead time, inbound transit. If you're doing a container shipment via sea, it takes several days to actually get to the port, and then it just sits there. It's not like UPS picking up at 4 o'clock and then immediately start delivering immediately to the Western warehouse or the next destination. So it sits there for a few days until the container and everything is loaded. And then the days at sea, I've got an example of 16 days. And then what? Once it arrives at the port of destination, it doesn't immediately disembark and then get delivered to you. It takes another 2 to 3 days, especially if there's congestion. Christmas time, before Chinese New Year, everyone's trying to do the same thing. So we add 3 days. on some products that come from China, especially certain regions and cities, it tends to go through examinations and customs more often than, say, if we were trying to get something from Japan or Europe. And so for certain products, we add 3 days for that, and then another day for the products to then get transferred from customs into a warehouse to get transferred, and then another 2 days before the delivery. So the reality of the inbound lead time is not 20 days, it's now 28 days. So far, we've already extended our total time by 10 days up here and 8 days down here. But is that it? No, because the whole point is to try and get the product into Amazon, right? So this is where a lot of people fail to understand about the lead times, is that they do not account the outbound lead time. If you are shipping directly to FBA and the fulfillment centers, then fine, you can. It's going to be much easier where you don't really need this. You can just update the inbound lead times and then add in extra stuff where it's delivered to the fulfillment center. And then from the fulfillment center, you can immediately skip to, say, like receiving. But let's just go back to the case of you receiving to your local warehouse, and now you have to send it out to Amazon. So you have to, if you have to repack for Amazon, that could take 1 day to get all the different bundles that you have going on. And then nowadays, with all the delays at Amazon, it takes literally at least 5 to 9 days for them to receive shipment. You've heard cases where it's taking even 2 to 3 weeks before they even start receiving. So things like that. So there's the shipment to Amazon, the delays that you have to factor in. And this one is optional, but I just included just in case for you guys, where once Amazon receives it and checks it in, they then have to distribute it throughout their fulfillment centers. And during that transfer time, the inventory may not be available. So you may want to add like 1 or 2 days of in stock. Now, add up all of that, and the total lead time during peak hour is now 80 days instead of 45 days. If you're down to inventory and you think, oh, I have about 50 days of inventory remaining, I think I'll go put in an order and I should be good. Guess what? You're going to be in for a surprise. Like I've had so many times where you realize you're going out of stock and you need to do some emergency air shipments, and then that just kills your margins either way. So by doing this, you protect yourself by when you break it down and you get down to 80 days of lead time. So in a spreadsheet form, this is what it looks like. And I'm going to switch over to a Google Sheet to show you. Okay, so this is the spreadsheet version of the screenshot that I just shared. And all I did was break it down into a spreadsheet form. So I have the names of my suppliers here. And depending on the supplier, I've got a peak season and off-peak season version. And for example, let's say I buy products from Apple, right? I've broken it down of what I shared in the presentation into each column. So I've got the days for the raw materials. I manually enter like how many production days, QA, packing, etc., etc. Here, this is all the inbound related numbers, the number of days. On the outbound, these are the numbers. And so the true lead time, this is what I call the true lead time for peak season for, say, Apple supply is 52 days, 1.7 months. And during off-peak season, it would be 46 days. And so you can do this for each of your suppliers, or you could do it for each of your SKUs. It just depends on how really granular and detailed you want to get. But the point is, by doing this, you're going to improve the quantity of inventory you have on hand. And it's always better to have a little bit more in your inventory in stock as opposed to going out of stock, right? Because in-time inventory, it only works until it doesn't, right? Lean inventory, lean management, lean supply chain, the Toyota way, it works until it doesn't. And you saw that especially early in the year when COVID hit. We were able to have enough inventory on hand to last us several months in advance because we saw some things coming up in the supply chain when we broke things down individually. If we had trusted let's say Toyota, we got some stuff from Toyota. If we trusted Toyota saying, oh, we can get you the product in 14 days, right? We would have been out of stock. But because we broke everything down, we were able to maintain our inventory threshold and keep selling when everybody else went out of stock. And don't worry about the spreadsheet. I'm going to be sharing this with you as well as the presentation. So you'll be able to get it in the link that Augustus provides. So now that you have an idea of the lead times, let's move on to velocity calculations. If you go into restock inventory, pretty much you see this, you know what it is, but the calculation is very basic and very linear. Amazon pretty much only uses your last 30 days in stock, or not in stock, your last 30 days of sales to try and estimate and give you a recommended number of how much you have to restock, right? So the problem with just using last 30 days is that it doesn't really take into account any seasonality. Okay, so if you have really good Januaries or you have really good August, then Amazon doesn't really know that. It just uses the last 30 days and thinks that your next month is going to be just the same. Or if you have like a really slow month, it's going to think that, okay, next month will be just as slow. Whereas if you break down your data, like I'm going to show you again, you'll know what to expect and you'll be able to better predict and forecast how much inventory you need to send and get ready. Another problem with the 30 days is that it doesn't account any spikes. Like if you run promotions, if you're trying to launch a product, you're going to have these big spikes and you don't want to be going out of stock all of a sudden, or you don't want Amazon thinking that your spike is pretty much the consistent level and will tell you to send in like say 50,000 units when really 2 months later you only need to send in like several thousand, right? Amazon also does not account for any of their own issues in the supply chain. For example, if they're having issues and slowdowns with receiving, with transfers, that is not added into any of the calculations. So it's purely based on just last 30 days. And that's a very limiting factor and one of the big reasons why most people go out of stock. So here's a better method. Okay, so the first part is simply breaking down your table of each month and then adding a weighting factor. Now, I'm using my example, and I just added a color code where red is our hottest months. So January and December, it's our hottest months, and then it cools down earlier in the year, and then the summer months is much slower. But I like to use 7 days, 14 days, and 30 days as the minimum. With just these 3 data points alone, you'll be able to get a much better accurate number and get an idea of what works and what isn't and how much to send. The way you also improve it is by adding a weighting factor. So you can create this table easily. And again, I'll switch to a spreadsheet in the next slide. But you apply a weight to what number you want to place importance on for a particular month. So in January, there's the 7-day, last 14 days, and 30 days. But if you look at the number, I do 100, 100, and 200. So as a weighting factor, I'm applying for January more importance on the last 30 days because last 30 days means it's December, and I know that December and January are fairly similar. So I'm going to put more weight onto how the sales did in December to estimate and forecast my January inventory. So if that makes sense. And then look at February. So we know that February drops off. So rather than applying too much of January's inventory and sales figures, I'm applying even distribution between, say, like the last 14 and last 30 day, and saying that the last 7 day isn't as important as the combination of last 14 and 30. And so this will help my inventory and sales figures projections smooth out, as opposed to thinking that I'm going to sell just as much in February because I'm looking behind at January. So it helps you look forward as opposed to just constantly looking at the review mirror. And this will help you with seasonality. It's going to adjust for your spike, smoothens things out, and will give you a much easier way to predict your velocity. Okay, so with that in action, here's another screenshot from the spreadsheet that I'm going to share. But pretty much, you don't see the product, but just imagine that there's a product here on the left side, right? So I've got the last 7, 14, and 30 days sales of each one. So these are the sales units sold. And my 30-day calculation now uses a combination of the 7-day, 14-day, and 30-day sales with the weighting factor from here, depending on which month. So right now, since it's August, I'm using this weighting factor of 75 for the last 7 days, 100 for the 14, and 50 for the 30, because I really don't care about the last 30 days during the summer months. And the calculation for the for the 30-day velocity now is calculated like this. So I'm using the last 7 days times 4 because I'm normalizing everything into a 30-ish day velocity. So 7 times 4 is 28, but you get the point. I'm trying to round it up to like a 28 to 30-day normalization. So by multiplying the last 7 days by 4, and then applying that weighting factor, I get a rough 30-day number. Same with the 14 days, I multiply by 2, and then last 30 days, I just multiply it by itself with the weight. And then for the normalizing factor, you divide it by the sum of the 3 weights. So let's see that in a live example. Here's the spreadsheet. I've just got some test products opened up at the moment. So let's just say I'm into the biking category, right? So as you saw, last 7 days of sales for, say, this helmet is 357 units, 815 for last 14 days, and over 2,000 for the last 30 days, right? Right now, I've put in the weights. So for the last 7 days, it knows that today is August. And so it's going to find the weights in the tab here. It's got August, and the last 7 days, 75, 100, and 50. And so based on today's date, it's going to use a basic formula to pull that in, grabs this one for the 14, and grabs 30. And so my 30-day calculation is going to be pretty much what I shared in the spreadsheet. And so don't worry too much about these numbers. You're getting the spreadsheet again. And it's telling me that my 30-day velocity based on this is 1672 units. So that's the expected amount that I'm going to be selling in 30 days, or based on the last 30 days. And I can use this number to judge how much inventory I should send, or if I'm running low, how much I need to order. As an example, I'm going to change up these weighting factors to show you. So like, let's say I placed a big importance in, let's say, like the last 30 days, right? I'm going to change from 50 to 200. It's not going to change it by a huge amount, but it does change it enough to make a difference. So if I was placing a big importance in the last 30 days, now it's telling me that the velocity is going to be 1800. Now that could be a difference. If I change it back to that, it's going to be a difference of about 200. And that could, depending on the size of your product, that could be a sizable sum in your storage fee. So take that into account. So this is where it really helps, making sure that you have the correct amount of inventory on hand in Amazon, so that you not only go out of stock, but so that you also don't have too much. In this one, I've just got it set up. These are just some extra data points and columns that I have, but a quick explanation is, okay, so based on this, and I'm right now in my warehouse in FBA, I have 171 units left. So I'm obviously very low, and my calculations tell me that I've only got pretty much 3 days of units remaining at the FBA and in the fulfillment centers. In the quantity to send, I have a minimum. I have set a number of days that I want to replenish the inventory. Nowadays, with Amazon limiting your quantity, it may be 35 days, it may be 45 days. Check what your product is. But for us, we can get up to, say, about 50 days. But I like to do 50 days nowadays because of all the delays. But previously, I had it to 40-something. But you can define what your off-peak inventory target is and what your peak inventory target is. And all of these numbers, it's coming in automatically. So one thing, if you're trying to do this manually, and I'll go through how you can also do it manually, but these numbers are being pulled automatically from our Seller Central account. So rather than having to constantly download the reports and export it and then grab, copy and paste for every single SKU each time frame, it's as easy as entering in a formula, a Gorilla formula, like what I have here, to pull in the last 7 days for the US marketplace for all of the SKUs listed from A3 to A6. So for these 4 products, and it will automatically pull it in. So if I delete that number, it's gone. But let's say I enter that formula in, you can see that it quickly pulls in the sales figures for the last days. So rather than having to play around with exporting and then working to get your data, you can just focus and get your work and reports done. So back to this, I can show you that based on the 50 days of inventory target, it's telling me that I need to send in this quantity because my 30-day velocity is this number. If I wanted to reduce the target days inventory like to 30 days, then, okay, it's going to actually use a different number. But if I change the target inventory, the quantity will also update so that it doesn't send in too much. There are also other spreadsheets along with what I've just shown you that you can use to play around, and you can use it to see what different types of data points that you can grab with Gorilla in order to save your time and make it more convenient. And pretty much by automating, you can really supercharge your reports and results. So basically what data you need is, one, you need to get the weightings by month. And it's on a per SKU level. So that way you can analyze it on a month. You can analyze it by time period, 7, 14, and 30 days. Again, like I said earlier, we have people, and I've met people who do much shorter time periods as well. They do like 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, 14 days, and 30 days into their calculations because they really want to account for spikes and promotions that they give out. And if you're based in, say, USA and you want to send inventory, say, UK or Canada, it takes so much longer to get the inventory there. So you don't want to be underestimating your numbers. And if you have spikes and promotions, you don't want to go out of stock. Same with the velocity calculations. You do it on a per SKU basis. So at a minimum, the numbers that you need to get from your Seller Central account is your total available inventory. And that's usually fulfillable plus inbound plus transfer. And with Gorilla ROI, you can get all this information. You can get each inventory status pulled automatically so that you don't have to constantly update manually, as well as the last 7 days, 14 days, and 30 days units sold. So there's a lot of flexibility required that Gorilla will help you, but you can do it manually, and that's the tiresome part. So go into detailed sales and traffic, and then adjust your dates. So you get it from last 7, 14, and 30. Make sure the dates are consistent because, again, problem with Amazon is that they don't have a simple predefined date system. So you always have to make sure your dates are correct and counting the correct number of days. And then, so if you do it for 7, 14, 30 days, if you try to do it for extra time periods, it's all of the work multiplied by how many time periods you need. So again, what you can do is you can use the Gorilla ROI add-on to get that data. And the easiest way is you can go into any Google Sheet, and then you can go to menu, add-ons, and then get add-ons. And then you can search for the add-on and then install it once it shows up. There's another link that you can use, and that's going to be provided below, as well as free spreadsheets and this spreadsheet that you see today, that will be included. So what are some other data points that you may need in order to simply create a better report and improve your inventory, right? So things like if you're trying to get your buy box price, right? If you want to see what your buy box price is, you can grab that and then use it to compare with your competitors. Like I showed you, sales count. So instead of just doing 7 days, 14 days, 30 days, you can do something like this month, this year, last month, last 60 days, last 3 months. So whatever your needs are to be able to project better. And you can grab it for, right now it says all, but it just means for across the all marketplaces. So if you're a European seller, If you have all, it's going to combine the total sales for UK, France, Italy, Netherlands, Sweden's coming up, and all the European marketplaces. You can also do the same thing for refunds. So if you have a high refund count, if you sell clothes in the clothing category, you have to account for the refund. So you have to be able to send in that additional inventory to account for those refunds. And inventory is what I just showed you here. You can grab it for any ASIN, for example, in the UK that's in transfer status, and get the numbers. So I'm going to switch again to another spreadsheet. Okay, so in this spreadsheet, it's showing you, rather than just the last 7, 14, and 30 days, now it's showing you that you can do it for you can get how many units sold you've today, yesterday, same day last week, same day last month, last year, and the number of time periods. We have so many, as well as custom time periods. So if you have different fiscal years and you have very strange date requirements, then you can easily update this to include a start date, and an end date. But again, all of this is just generated automatically. Like if I wanted to say delete all of this here, all of this data is gone. But to pull up all of this information, say for all of these time periods for each of the SKUs, again, think about how often or how many times you would have to export a CSV to get this data to actually make good decisions. But if I just undo and then add these formulas, you can see that it pulls it in per SKU, per time period, and that's going to give you so much flexibility and control over how you assess your business and how you actually direct it. So these are the unit counts. If I go further to the right, this green section is actually, say, example dollar values. So rather than the actual units, you can actually see the dollar amounts of something that has sold. Same thing on the product listing side. Like if you're trying to grab the titles, or if you're trying to get the FNSQs or the ASINs for a particular SKU, it's as simple as just converting the SKU to an ASIN. So again, if I just delete this, but then if I want to, say, convert the SKU to an ASIN, it's as simple as Gorilla SKU ASIN. And then with the Dropbox, you can, it will direct you on what to do. So I'm going to convert, say, these 3 SKUs into SKU to ASIN. And I should have increased the size. But again, you can see that the formula is I'm converting SKU to ASIN for these SKUs, and that's the direction I want to do it. If this was an ASIN and I wanted to do ASIN to SKU, I would just type in ASIN to SKU, and we have documentation on that. And then that would automatically convert whatever this ASIN is from that SKU. Same with the titles. You can get categories, the ranks, manufacturer of the product. So the information that Amazon provides, whatever you need, there's a lot of flexibility. So if you have the creativity, if you have the need to supercharge your spreadsheets and to be able to get information like inventory and sales to improve your velocity and inventory management, then it's going to help you out greatly. And it all comes down to, how good. I'm a spreadsheet nerd, so you can see that this looks quite complex, but pretty much all I did was use Gorilla to bring in the units sold per month over the past 2 years. And then I just applied some not basic, but math and spreadsheet modeling to create this forecasting chart. So if I wanted to, say, enter this SKU, then it will start automatically pulling in the monthly sales and forecasting it into my model. So it's all about your creativity, whatever your needs are. You can supercharge it to whatever current models that you may have. And you can see it in action. So that's another example. And here's another dashboard example of what you can do, like how much inventory you have available, in stock, transfer, that's inbound. Again, these are all automatically pulled, and I just make a prettier version so that when my team looks at it, they can immediately understand instead of trying to struggle with how to use the data. Okay, so who is Gorilla ROI for? I do want to make it clear that it's not for everybody. If you do FBM, it's not for you. If you're not good with spreadsheets, it's not good. It's not good for you. If you are very small volume sellers and you have less than 5 SKUs, you can easily do this manually, and you can get all your inventory numbers and use the spreadsheet that's provided to improve your inventory right away. But if you're looking for something where you already use Google Sheets, you're needing to automate it, you're needing to supercharge it, you only need FBA data, then definitely can check it out, because it's going to save you so much time, energy, and convenience, not just for yourself, but for anyone who's trying to build reports on the fly. And like Augustus mentioned, we have a Orange Klik special only. And so you get 10% off the life of your subscription. So it's not just for 1 month, not just for 2 months, it's for the complete life of your subscription. So we're also including some free spreadsheets for you guys. And so use the link below to grab that info. And I hope you've learned something about the 3 things that we've gone through: lead time calculations, applying a weighting factor to your system, and improving your velocity calculation, and use the spreadsheet, guys.
All right. Thank you very much for this useful advanced information. I hope it will be useful for our listeners who are really advanced in their Amazon businesses. And yeah, as Jay mentioned, just check for the links below. You will get all the templates, and also if you want to try and test Gorilla ROI, the tool. I think it's amazing software, and it's amazing how it is done and designed, and it's designed by the data geek. And I don't know, if someone wants to contact you privately, what's the best way to do it?
Yeah, you can just contact us directly through GorillaROI.com. There's a contact form that will come directly into our help desk, and one of our team members will get on it right away.
Perfect. Thank you very much, and goodbye, and good luck in your business. Bye.
Okay, thanks guys. Bye.
I hope you managed to process this very detailed information and all the slides Jay showed to you. And actually, if you would like to learn more about Gorilla ROI, check this video so you can watch the demo and see how it looks, what functionality exists in this software tool, and also the links below are in the description of this video.